The early hours of the morning. When I open my eyes, it's not the noise of the modern world that greets me, but the sound of a ritual thousands of years old. The sound of the Nile, and the steps of those who carry life. In these jars is not just water, but the very lifeblood of this civilization. Here is the second source of life for Egypt: bread. The ovens start burning with the first light of morning. Remember, bread in Egypt is thick and nourishing. It is not just a meal, it is a portion of a laborer's daily wage. And of course, where there is bread, there is beer. Beer, or henu, was a drink safer than water itself in ancient Egypt. It was diluted, rich in nutrients, and a staple for everyone. Just imagine how many vats were consumed daily. Egyptian beer was fundamentally made from bread. Lightly baked, leavened bread was mixed with water and sometimes dates for flavor, and then left to ferment in vats. This was a taste and texture vastly different from what we know today. This was not the clear beer we know today. It was thick, highly nutritious, and full of sediment. That is why it formed the basis of laborers' wages. It provided both calories and a safe source of hydration. It was the most guaranteed way to avoid diseases often carried by water. Here is a scribe, one of the most respected classes in society. Literacy was the only way to hold real power in Egypt. They don't just write. They record the decrees of the pharaoh, the stories of the gods, and immortality itself. The market. This is where the pulse of Egypt beats fastest. There was no money used here. Everything was done through barter. A bundle of onions for a piece of linen, or a bowl of wheat for a pair of sandals. You see how dusty the air is. The desert always waits at the door. These fabrics are a simple but effective way to protect against not only the heat, but also the sand that infiltrates everywhere in Egypt. They were just like us. Play was as essential to life in Egypt as it is anywhere else. Perhaps that simple spinning top they're playing with now is honing the manual dexterity of a future architect or soldier. The bounty of the Nile is brought to the tables. These fish are often salted and dried to be consumed throughout the year. The Nile River is not just for agriculture, but also a vital source of protein. The artistry of hands. These vessels contain everything from bread and beer to the valuable artworks placed in the tombs of the wealthy. Everything begins with this simple mud. Behind the splendor of Egypt lies this simple craftsmanship. The tools that built the pyramids, that plowed the fields. This is the Bronze Age. Iron is not yet widespread. Every sharp edge is achieved through a master's effort. Egyptians wore linen, not cotton. It was the most suitable material for the hot climate. Everyone, from the pharaoh to the peasant, wore linen. However, the fineness of the weave determined your social status. Egypt's textile industry was entirely based on linen. Separating the fibers from the flax stalk was a long and arduous process. Flax fields were among the most valuable agricultural areas, nourished by the Nile's floodwaters, and formed the backbone of Egypt's economic strength. Linen was Egypt's most important export and the primary medium of barter in domestic trade. Especially the fine, transparent quality cloth, the royal linen, was valued like gold and used only by the elite. Linen was also indispensable for the mummification of the dead. The power of the wind, the sound of the boat. The Nile River was Egypt's highway. From here, journeys were made to temples, to markets, and to eternity. These sails were the wings of civilization. Behold, the monuments that remind man of what power truly is. These stones, built for the gods and the pharaoh, dwarf our mud brick houses. Stone was used for the dead, but the mud of the Nile was for the living. This is the home of the ordinary Egyptian, simple, cool, and respectful of nature. These houses may not last for centuries, but life flows here. The trucks and tractors of ancient Egypt. Donkeys are the unsung heroes of Egypt's economy. Without them, trade would cease and fields could not be sown. construction of those temples was no miracle, but a reality on the backs of these men. These stones were brought from Aswan, hundreds of miles away. Each one is a piece of the pharaoh's pursuit of eternity. A day of festival. A god is temporarily taking a worldly journey. These sacred barks carry the spirit of the deity. In Egypt, religion encompasses every moment of life. It is not merely about worship. This scent, kaifi, it's not just for cleansing the air, but also intended as a pleasing offering to the gods and a ward against evil. Scent is both an earthly and a spiritual luxury. Here is a touch of the sacred. Cats were seen as the earthly reflection of the goddess Bastet. To harm them was a grave sin. Egypt lived alongside its animals, showing them profound respect. For Egyptians, the cat was sacred, and deliberately harming one was one of the most severe crimes in the penal code: death. When a household cat died, the entire family would shave their eyebrows to show mourning. This demonstrates the extent of Egypt's respect for its animals. The power of the pharaoh. The new kingdom is an empire, and this empire stands strong because of these soldiers. They are not just warriors, they are also the enforcers of law, order, and the collection of taxes. Life ends here. But for the Egyptians, the real journey begins now. The afterlife, Aru, is the final destination. This current life is merely preparation. Our clothing, linen, and more linen. Status was measured not by the thickness of the fabric, but by its fineness and purity. The wealthiest wore sheer, almost transparent fabrics that revealed almost everything underneath. Behold, where power and wealth reside. Though only walls are visible from the outside, inside are hidden shaded courtyards, ornamental pools, and the full luxury of Egypt. Comfort was paramount for Egypt's elite. Homes were constructed with thick mud bricks to keep the heat out. Every villa featured a central pool or shaded courtyard that provided cool respite during the hot summer months. The life of the elite was spent in bureaucracy during the day and lavish banquets in the evening. Makeup, wigs, expensive jewelry, and perfumes were a mandatory part of their social status. Entertainment usually involved music, dancing, and plenty of wine. Their wealth was not limited to this world. The tomb chambers were a complete home for their next life. Thousands of ushabti, servant figures, were placed in the tomb, ensuring that the deceased would not have to perform physical labor in the afterlife. These homes are protected because the people inside are not just wealthy, but also vital links in the pharaoh's chain of command. Order is first maintained here. Horses and chariots, the newest symbol of power. This technology, learned from the Hyksos, is used both in warfare and as a display of wealth. This is a luxury that an ordinary citizen could never possess. Beauty is part of the reverence for the gods. Coal not only enhanced the eyes, but also protected them from the sun's harmful rays. Egyptians were the most stylish people in the ancient world. The diet of a wealthy Egyptian: roasted duck, wine, sweet fruits, a world served by servants. How starkly different from the life of a simple baker, isn't it? Taxation keeps the empire running. These officials record everything, from the harvest in the fields to trade in the market. Everything ultimately belongs to the pharaoh. Egypt is no longer an isolated kingdom. As the empire expanded, people from different nations took their places on these streets. They are another testament to Egypt's wealth. The day is over. The women carrying water from the Nile, the bakers, the craftsmen, all are returning to their homes. What remains is the sound of this ancient world, a world where mud and gold intertwined, existing under the shadow of the pharaoh and the gods.